I want to start today with a feeling, a really specific shared feeling that you've probably had,
Okay.
especially if you commute or walk a lot in the mornings. You know, that sudden kind of inexplicable feeling of warmth.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's not about the actual temperature.
No, not what the reading on your phone says. It's just a moment where you feel, I don't know, connected,
Mm.
almost sheltered just because you're moving through the world with other people.
It's a really powerful observation. We're so conditioned to think of warmth and temperature as just, purely meteorological things. We measure it all scientifically.
Exactly. But the source material for our deep dive today suggests something else. It says this feeling, this single temperature, it's not from the sun.
It's from us.
It's from us. The sources say the warmth is there because, and I'm quoting here, it is because we exist and because we are connected. It's like a byproduct of all of us just breathing together.
And that's a fantastic anchor for a discussion because it takes this simple, almost unnoticed sensory thing and immediately pivots it into a deep existential question, a question about how we treat that shared space.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is to synthesize two really distinct but perfectly aligned sources.
Right.
First, we have this intensely poetic short reflection from Apollonio Carvalho Nascimento. It's called Non essere indifferenti al prossimo.
Which means do not be indifferent to your neighbor.
Exactly. And we're using that as our emotional lens for this deep dive.
And we're taking Nascimento's really visceral understanding of disconnection and using it to illuminate a much broader sort of systematic framework.
Which is Martino Kim's Terra Nova Flow, or TNF philosophy.
That's the one.
So the goal here for you listening isn't just to understand why indifference is dangerous. It's to see the actual architecture of connection itself.
We're moving from a personal, emotional feeling all the way to a structural reality where problems are just broken flows.
Yeah. Nascimento tells us what happens when we disconnect.
And TNF gives us the map for why connection is so essential and, more importantly, how to fix it when it breaks.
Nascimento starts strong. He immediately defines the antagonist here, indifference. He says it's silent distance.
It's not about what you say or do.
No, it hurts through absence. It's a refusal to share space,
Yeah.
even when you're physically in the same room.
And he calls this absence, this conscious non-participation. He calls it one of the most cruel forms of abandonment.
Which is the core insight, right?
Yeah.
That this isn't passive. It's not just forgetting.
No, it's an active, conscious choice. It is, and I'm quoting again, the moment we choose not to see, not to listen, not to understand someone, it is an active deletion.
That's a huge shift. We usually think of harm as something you do to someone, an act of commission.
But framing it as erasure, a conscious not doing, it changes the whole ethical weight.
It really does.
And this is where the philosophy it deepens. It links directly into the foundational ideas of Terra Nova Flow. Because if the TNF premise is right, that all beings are interconnected, that we're all mirrors for each other, then choosing to ignore someone can't be a purely external act.
Okay, hang on, because I want to push back a little here. This is where modern survival instincts kick in.
Sure.
If I'm overwhelmed with my own stuff, ignoring the emotional noise from someone else, honestly, it feels like self-preservation.
Yeah.
It feels necessary.
That is the essential paradox. That's what these sources are getting at. The philosophy argues that what feels like self-preservation is actually a subtle kind of self-destruction.
How so?
When you deny that connection, you think you're closing a door on their problem.
Right.
But you're actually sealing off a fundamental pathway inside your own awareness. You're trying to erase a part of the network that you yourself are a part of.
So indifference is an arrow aimed at another, but the tip eventually returns to one's own sense of existence.
Precisely. If you willfully ignore another node in the network, your own world, your own sense of reality starts to gradually fade away. You become less resilient.
Because you've cut yourself off from the system that confirms you exist in the first place.
Exactly. So simply accepting the connection, just choosing to see, becomes a quiet act of self-affirmation.
Wow. That reframing that's incredibly impactful. It doesn't just hurt them, it shrinks your own world.
Which brings us to the people themselves, the people we're tempted to ignore. Nascimento says, in every person who crosses our path, there is a whole world.
And he doesn't just mean their personality.
No, not at all. He means everything, all their private memories, wounds, dreams, regrets, and unsaid questions. It's this whole dynamic living world inside them.
And that world isn't shouting for attention.
No, it doesn't demand anything. It asks, almost silently, the most fundamental question there is.
Can you see me?
That's it. That's the question.
It's a quiet request for acknowledgement, not for intervention. And that's a really crucial distinction for anyone listening.
It is.
Because our instinct, especially if a friend or colleague is struggling, is to jump in with solutions, advice, judgment, to try and fix the world we just saw.
And the sources warn us that doing that, it often blocks true seeing. It interrupts the real acknowledgement.
You're turning "can you see me" into what? "I'll see you if you let me fix you."
Exactly. It becomes transactional.
So if we're not fixing or judging or advising, what is the answer? What does seeing actually require from us?
Almost no physical effort, but immense internal presence. It just requires you to pause your gaze,
To not run away?
and to just acknowledge the simple fact of their existence. You're not taking on their burden. You're just confirming that they, like you, are here.
So in practice, if I'm dealing with someone who's really struggling, the first step isn't a huge intervention.
No.
It might just be to pause, meet their eyes, and let them know, even just internally and quietly. I see.
That is the deeper response. Think about the overworked cashier, a genuine thank you spoken with presence where you actually see them as a purser.
That's so much more restorative than a forced cheer up.
Infinitely more. You're affirming that they are a whole world, not just a function.
And here's the paradox, right? The text says when we genuinely pause to see someone else's world, we realize we've just helped save our own world.
Because we get that quiet confirmation back. I am here too.
That idea, that acknowledgement is a reciprocal lifeline, that's the perfect bridge to the Terra Nova Flow system.
It is. Nascimento shows us the visceral self-destructive effect of disconnecting.
And TNF gives us the system map of why it's so destructive and how we can repair it.
So let's dive into that map.
Okay, so Terra Nova Flow. It's a philosophy that redesigns the world around the concept of flow. That seems simple, but how does it really change things?
Well, it revolutionizes our approach to problems by replacing moral judgment with structural analysis.
So less about who's right or wrong.
Exactly. It forces us to stop asking that really destructive question, who is at fault?
And
Instead, we ask the profoundly constructive one, where was the flow broken?
that one shift is so powerful. It just removes blame from the equation. Blame is where all progress dies.
It is. If your team project is failing, you stop blaming individuals and start asking what essential flows of communication, of resources, of recognition have stopped.
It's a traffic jam, not a bad driver.
Precisely. And this ties directly into TNF's structural view of the world. Principle 2 is really clear on this.
Which is?
Isolation is an error of interpretation. Separation is an illusion of perspective.
So we're not isolated islands.
Never. The world always operates as a network of relationships. We are always in the current.
So if we apply that back to indifference, the conclusion is kind of unavoidable.
It is. Indifference is the very act of stopping that flow of connection. It's a deliberate act. You are consciously building a small internal dam.
And that finally makes sense of the self-destruction piece. If I'm part of a network, breaking a flow outward has to boomerang back.
It has to. It causes your own sense of reality to diminish because you've cut yourself off from the restorative power of the whole current.
It's like a part of a river that isolates itself. It just stagnates.
It stagnates. Which leads us to the next logical question. If the problem is a broken flow, what's the solution?
And the answer is in TNF Principle 4, the law of resolution.
Right. And that principle states, true solution is always the restoration of flow.
So not control, not management.
No. We waste so much time trying to control the symptoms, micromanaging people, creating temporary fixes, but TNF insists that those are all partial. You have to restore the underlying movement.
And this brings us right back to that I see moment. The problem of indifference feels so huge, but this principle suggests the solution doesn't have to be.
Not at all. You don't have to explode the dam.
You just have to open a small gate.
Exactly. The first step is often just that quiet, active acknowledgement. It's like opening a small sluice gate. It's a minor adjustment that initiates movement. And that tiny bit of movement is enough.
But why is it enough? Why doesn't the whole system need a massive push?
Because the flow itself is restorative by nature. Once you remove the block, the indifference, that little bit of movement lets the relationship or the system start to self-correct.
You're trusting the flow itself to be the healing agent.
You are, instead of relying on some external authority or judgment to force a repair.
That makes the whole problem of human indifference feel manageable. It brings it down to the scale of a single choice I can make right now.
Do I acknowledge or do I turn away? It simplifies the whole ethic into an act of presence.
So we've gone from a feeling through a poem into a philosophical framework, and now we can go back to the beginning.
Back to the morning commute. Why was it warm?
The warmth on the commute is the sensory proof of connection. It's the quiet warmth generated by the flow.
It's the systemic confirmation that you are part of a massive, living network. It wasn't the air, it was the realization that countless people, silent and unnamed, were breathing and walking with you in that same moment.
Confirming their shared existence.
And confirming the integrity of the whole flow.
That feeling is what's captured in the concept song mentioned in the sources. Here you are to wrangle up.
Yeah, that core lyric, I am here, you are here too, we are connected, living this moment.
Yeah.
It's powerful because it's not trying to explain connection.
It's just confirming it.
It's just confirming the reality that's already there. It moves it from an idea you believe in to something you can actually feel.
Which brings us to the final, and I think most provocative thought from all of this. It comes from TNF Principle 5.
Ah, yes. Principle 5 says that we are not just consumers of flow, passively reacting to things.
You're architects of it.
We are architects of it. We have the inherent capacity to redesign connections and restore broken flows.
That's incredibly empowering. It means our ethical choices aren't just reactions, they're structural engineering decisions.
Yes. When you choose to acknowledge someone, you are actively rebuilding a broken pathway in the world.
So if indifference breaks flow, and a moment of acknowledgement restores it,
the final challenge for you listening is to look around and identify where you can be an architect of flow. Right now. Where is that small, quiet, broken flow in your life? Maybe it's in a strained relationship, a forgotten task at work, or even an ignored emotion inside yourself.
something that's waiting for you to simply stop, not run away.
And acknowledge its existence. Finding that quiet spot and just opening that one small sluice gate, that's where your own restoration begins.